Hello, I'm Michael Jones from Sofidel's Future magazine and website, focused on building a better world together. I'm delighted to be speaking today with Marco Galaverni, Programme and Oasis Director at WWF Italy, on the subject of WWF's Living Planet report. Marco, welcome.
Thanks so much. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Marco, tell me, why was the Living Planet Report 2022 such an important piece of research, and what were the primary drivers behind the commissioning of the studies?
Well, of course, since we want to protect biodiversity for the benefit of the planet and people, of course, we need a solid index to trace the trends in biodiversity at the global level. And since gathering data is far from trivial, the Living Planet Index is an appropriate and valuable source of information before we actually see the loss of entire species and population. We want to see their trends, how they go, and how well we are doing, or how bad we are doing in conserving biodiversity worldwide.
Marco, let's talk about that loss of population. So according to the report, global wildlife populations have plummeted by 69% on average since 1970. So why is this staggering rate of decline such a compellingly worrying statistic? And also, what are some of the other top-level findings from the report?
Well, as everyone can easily get from this huge decrease in the average size of vertebrate populations worldwide, we are literally losing a significant portion of biodiversity on Earth. And if we go and see at more specific results, we will see that biodiversity loss, or better, the decrease of populations in Southern and Central America plummeted by on average 94% in less than 50 years. That's incredible. It means that we're literally losing millions of individuals from very important species in a few decades. And looking at the habitat side, vertebrates living in fresh waters, they have been decreasing on average by 83% in less than 50 years. That's something incredible. We often forget about the importance of fresh water, but this index is something really incredible we have to really take care of.
As you said, Marco, the findings are incredible. They're also very clear that the rich biodiversity that sustains all life on our planet is in crisis. It's putting every species at risk. But why does that include humans too?
Well, we are simply part of nature. We are one species among millions of other species, and our own safety, livelihoods, security, and life itself really depends on nature. So losing important pieces of our own ecosystems, it's crucial for our future survival. So as the incredibly nice representation made by the so-called wedding cake, which represents the United Nations Agenda 2030 goals. Well, biodiversity is the very basis of our own societies and our own economies. So we can't simply survive without nature. That's why we have to care about it.
You mentioned our own economies there, Marco. Why is this then not only an environmental issue? Why is this instead a far-reaching economic, development, security, social, moral, and an ethical issue too?
Well, just think about fertile soils that we need to produce our own food. Well, they depend on nature. The organic portion of soils is made by a long-lasting action of ecosystem, providing that fertile soil. So all of our economics are based upon nature. Just think about fabrics. Most of them just come from nature. Most of the things we base our own economies upon are based on nature. So we really have to care about it, unless we want to really impede our future needs and sustainability of our own societies and economies.
So, Marco, in terms of how we do care about it, as you say, why must these dual crises of catastrophic nature loss, as you've just described, plus climate change, which is driven by the unsustainable use of our planet's resources, why must they both be treated as part of the same problem rather than two separate issues?
Well, simply because they are strictly connected. Let's think about how nature itself is crucial for maintaining the balance of our climate system. So most of carbon is not out there in the atmosphere, but is stocked in ecosystems. Let's think about forests, let's think about oceans, and so on. So we won't fix the climate issue unless we do a better job in conserving biodiversity, and vice versa. Climate change is getting more and more important as a source of threats to biodiversity, because more and more species are now really modified in their environment by the impact of climate change. And so it will be more and more important in the next decades. So unless we really take care of both issues and crises together, unless otherwise we won't be able to fix any of them.
And in terms of how we those fixes and what we can do, as the report states, while conservation efforts are certainly helping, urgent action is required now if we're going to reverse the loss of nature this decade. What more needs to be done? What initiatives demand to be actioned, would you say?
Well, of course, conservation actions are crucial. And the new targets just recently set by the Conference of Parties from the Convention on Biological Diversity that recently met in Montreal set very challenging, fascinating targets to be reached by 2030 in effectively conserving at least 30% of our planet, both at the terrestrial and marine environments. We have to take care of that. We have to really try and improve our effort in nature restoration, where we depleted habitat and ecosystems. But this is not enough unless we really manage to put in place real transformative change in the whole system in which we produce and consume goods and natural resources. Unless we really switch the way we think about that, not only facing on economics, but also taking care of all the impacts, either positive or negative, that each of our choices about consumption and production will affect our future here on planet Earth. So we really have to switch the whole system.
Marco, you mentioned the phrase there, taking care. What does taking care of the planet mean to you today?
Well, to me personally, it means taking care of my job in the best way possible, because WWF is the largest organization about the conservation of the balance between humans and nature on Earth. Of course, this is a big responsibility, but also as simple human beings, we can make a difference by choosing the right options we have as consumers, as people voting their own institutions, and so on. So we really have the opportunity in these few years to make a huge change in the way we choose and we behave directly.
You mentioned there, Marco, it's a big responsibility. Are you hopeful that we can indeed address the plethora of challenges that are plaguing our living planet, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally positive about that. The challenge is high, is tough, but together we can make it. What I see around is that future is already here, and I see so many organizations, so private companies, really doing their best in reducing their efforts and start to make a positive difference. We need to build a nature positive world, not only reducing our impacts on biodiversity and climate, but really contributing to a large challenge where all human beings go towards the same direction. This is something exciting, and everyone, either institutions, single individuals, companies, can make a difference about that. We just need to join our efforts and forget the business as usual model that took us towards very unsuitable direction. So this is what we need to do in the next year, and of course we will be happy to take the lead and support everyone to go towards this direction.
Fantastic, Marco. The future, as you said, is already here. Thank you so much for joining us today. Best of luck with all of your endeavors at WWF Italy and for telling us about this excellent report. Thank you, Marco.
Thanks so much. Thanks.